ready for this? Oh.
Like it like that. Hey yo, listen.
Drop it low to the flow. Oh.
Like it like that.
Yeah. Oh. Are you ready for this?
All right, so let's dive into this Barclays bank outage story that's been everywhere. You know, imagine it's payday, you're ready to get your money, and bam, the system's down. That's what happened to literally millions of Barclays customers in the UK. And we've got articles here from the BBC, from Sky News, even Express.co.uk, and they've all got a different take on this whole tech meltdown and all the fallout. But here's the thing, it's not just about the numbers, it's about like real people, you know, facing real problems because of this.
Yeah.
We're talking people like Emily, who was ready to move into her new home. And suddenly she and her kids are stuck because the money to buy the house was frozen. So is this just a one-time glitch, or is this a sign of a much bigger problem? Well, let's find out.
It's definitely a wake-up call. And what's
Yeah.
interesting is that this outage hit on February 1st. And that's like the worst possible time payday for a lot of people, self-assessment tax deadline right around the corner. And then suddenly millions of people can't access their accounts.
Talk about adding insult to injury.
Yeah.
And it didn't end there either. This outage went on through the whole weekend, leaving customers totally in the dark about like when things would get back to normal. I can't even imagine how stressed people must have been.
Totally. And it's easy to forget about the human cost of all this. I mean, beyond just the inconvenience, imagine like all the ripple effects, missing bill payments, getting your card declined at the store. That awful feeling when you realize you can't get to your own money.
It's like someone suddenly pulled the rug out from under everyone. And these articles have stories that really drive that home. Like there's Dave, he's a 69-year-old retiree, and he told the BBC that because of missed automatic transfers, he's now overdrawn. And he's looking at late fees.
And then you've got Michaela. She's already stressed about a late payment, and then her debit card gets declined.
Yeah.
This wasn't just like a technical error. It was a whole cascade of anxieties for people who are already struggling.
So this wasn't just like a minor inconvenience then. It seems like this outage exposed just how much we rely on digital banking these days.
Exactly. And it raises a really important question. What happens when the systems we depend on so much fail? The Barclays outage really shows a vulnerability we might not want to admit, that our entire financial lives can be disrupted by one little technical glitch.
And speaking of glitches, what actually went wrong here? Was it like a cyber attack or a software bug?
Well, Barclays hasn't given us all the details yet, but experts seem to think it was a corrupted database file that started it all. It's a reminder that even tiny errors can have massive consequences.
It's kind of mind-blowing. A single corrupted file can bring a giant like Barclays to a standstill.
So how did Barclays respond to this whole mess? Did they even acknowledge there was a problem?
Well, they did. They publicly admitted there was an outage. And importantly, they promised that no one would be out of pocket because of it.
Well, that's a relief, at least on the financial side of things. But what did they actually do to help people? They said they extended call center hours and that they were prioritizing vulnerable customers. But some of their advice caused a bit of controversy. They suggested that people ask friends, family, or even food banks for support.
You can see how that would rub people the wrong way. It sounds like they were trying to shift the blame away from themselves.
It definitely raises questions about a bank's responsibility in these situations. Is telling people to go to a food bank really an acceptable response when they can't buy food because of your technical failure? It's a thorny ethical issue for sure.
And it gets even more complicated when you remember that this happened right on the UK tax deadline. So you had all these people trying to pay HMRC and they were left high and dry. How did HMRC handle all of that?
Well, HMRC was actually pretty proactive. They publicly acknowledged the issue and said they were working with Barclays to minimize the impact. And crucially, they waived any late payment penalties for people affected by the outage.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
It shows that even government agencies are having to adapt to this digital world and to all the potential problems that come with it.
Totally. It sets an interesting precedent for future incidents. I mean, if a banking outage can make the government be flexible on deadlines, what other areas could this apply to?
That's a really good point. But even with HMRC being flexible, there is still a lot of people wondering about compensation. Barclays has said they'll reimburse any direct financial losses. But is that really enough?
That's where things get a bit messy legally. What exactly counts as a loss here? Is it just about the money, or does it include all the stress, the missed opportunities, the potential damage to people's credit scores?
So this whole thing is raising more questions than answers then. We've seen how a simple technical glitch can turn into total chaos impacting individuals, businesses, even government agencies. It's clear that this Barclays outage isn't just some tech story. It's a story about how much we rely on digital systems and how vulnerable that makes us. But where do we go from here? How can we make sure that our financial lives aren't at risk every time a server crashes?
That is the million-dollar question, and it's one we're going to try to answer right after a quick break. Stick around.
You don't want to miss this. We'll be back in a flash. I'm still thinking about how one corrupted file caused so many problems. It's pretty crazy. It really makes you wonder, are we putting too much trust in all this digital stuff?
It's a fair point, I think. This Barclays situation really shows us that digital banking has its downsides too. We've basically moved our whole financial lives online, but are we ready for what happens when things go wrong?
Right, because it's not just about missing a coffee or something. People couldn't buy food, pay bills, or even get to their money on vacation. That's got to be scary.
And it brings up the question of who's responsible. You mentioned that Barclays said they'd cover financial losses, but what about the emotional impact? The anxiety, the sleepless nights worrying about bills, the frustration of not being able to access your own money. Where's the line between compensation and actually being accountable?
That's a good question. Is a simple refund really enough to make up for that kind of disruption? This whole thing feels like a legal minefield.
Exactly. And this could actually set a precedent for how these digital banking outages are handled in the future. It makes us think about the legal side of things. What are the limits of a bank's responsibility when their technology fails? Does it go beyond just money?
It's a conversation that's just beginning. But let's switch gears for a minute and talk about solutions. What can be done to stop these things from happening in the first place? Is it just about having better tech?
Technology is definitely part of it. Banks need to invest in strong systems, backups, and testing. It's like building a financial fortress.
That makes sense. But even fortresses have weak spots. We heard about how communication broke down during the outage too. People felt left in the dark, no idea what was going on or when it would be fixed.
Yeah, communication is so important in these situations. Banks need to be transparent and give people clear updates. Imagine if Barclays had just texted everyone explaining what happened and when things would be back to normal. That would help a lot.
It's true. Silence just makes people worry more. So, stronger tech, better communication. What else can banks do?
This might sound a bit radical, but maybe we need to rely less on just one bank. The Barclays outage shows what can happen when all your money is in one place.
So you're saying we should spread the risk?
Exactly. Having accounts at different banks can be a safety net if one of them goes down. It might seem like a hassle, but it could save you a lot of trouble.
That's a practical tip, something everyone can do. But beyond changing how we bank, are there bigger changes that could prevent these digital disruptions?
That's where regulations come in. Governments need to set standards for digital banking security. We need clear rules for how banks should prepare for these events and how they should respond to them.
So stricter rules could push banks to improve their technology and customer protection. But won't that stifle innovation? Too much red tape could slow down progress.
Right? It's a balancing act. We need regulations that are tough enough to protect people, but flexible enough for innovation. It's not about stopping progress. It's about making sure that progress is responsible.
Right, finding that balance between security and innovation is key. But regulation is only one part of the solution. What about technology itself? Could things like blockchain or AI help?
Definitely. Those are exciting areas. Blockchain, with its decentralized structure and secure record keeping, could make financial transactions more resilient. Imagine a system with no single point of failure, where every transaction is secure and transparent.
It sounds like a perfect system, but is it realistic to implement that on a large scale? The current system is so big and complex. Can blockchain really handle it?
It's a huge challenge for sure. There are technical hurdles and the problem of integrating it with existing systems, but a lot of experts believe that blockchain or something like it is the future of finance. It's just a matter of time and innovation.
So even if blockchain isn't the answer right now, it's worth exploring.
Yeah.
And what about AI? How could that help prevent these outages?
AI could be a game changer for cybersecurity. Imagine algorithms constantly checking systems, detecting anomalies, and finding threats before they become problems. AI could also personalize communication during outages, giving people tailored updates and support.
So AI could be like our digital bodyguard, keeping our money safe. It's pretty amazing to think about. But in the end, technology is only as good as the people using it. What can we do to protect ourselves in this digital world?
That's a good point. We can't just expect banks and governments to fix everything. We need to be proactive about protecting our own finances. Like we said earlier, diversifying your banking is a good start. Don't keep all your money in one place.
Right. Spread the risk. What else can we do? Should we all start keeping cash under our mattresses?
I wouldn't go that far. But it's not a bad idea to have a little cash on hand for emergencies. Think of it as a backup plan if the digital systems go down.
Like a financial life raft. Any other tips?
The most important thing is to be informed and careful. Stay updated on cybersecurity threats, be wary of scams, and check your account activity regularly. If something looks fishy, report it right away.
So be aware, be prepared, and be proactive. Good advice. This has been really eye-opening. It's clear that this Barclays outage is more than just a tech issue. It's a wake-up call for all of us.
Absolutely. It reminds us that our finances are more and more tied to technology, and that comes with both good and bad things. We need to be open and honest about these challenges to build a safer and stronger financial future.
It's a conversation that needs to include everyone, banks, regulators, tech people, and most importantly us, the people who use these systems every day. This Barclays outage has shown that we all have a stake in the future of finance. So we're back, and this whole Barclays thing has really made me think about the future of money. Like, what does it even look like in this increasingly digital world? And we've talked about security and regulations, but it feels like there's a much bigger conversation to be had here.
You're right, this goes way beyond just one bank or one outage. It makes us think about the whole foundation of our financial system. Are we headed toward a cashless future where everything is digital? And if so, what does that even mean?
It's a bit mind-blowing to imagine a world without cash. But it's not that crazy considering how things are going.
Yeah.
I mean, cash is already being used less and less contactless payments, and mobile banking are everywhere.
Exactly. And that trend is only going to continue. So we need to start asking some tough questions, like, what happens when our access to money relies entirely on technology? What if the power goes out or there's a massive cyber attack that shuts everything down?
It's like we're putting all our eggs in one digital basket without thinking about what could go wrong.
Yeah.
And we've already seen how fragile these systems can be. So what are the alternatives? Can we build a digital financial system that's both secure and reliable?
That's the big question. And it's not just about technology. It's also about trust. People need to feel confident that their digital money is safe, that they can access it when they need to, and that the whole system is fair and works properly.
Trust is really at the heart of it all, isn't it? We trust banks to keep our money safe. We trust governments to keep the banks in check. And we trust that the technology behind it all is going to work. But this Barclays outage has really shaken that trust for a lot of people.
It has, and it's going to take time and effort to rebuild that trust. Banks need to show that they're serious about security and transparency. Regulators need to make sure there are rules in place to protect consumers. And tech people need to keep innovating and developing solutions that are both secure and easy to use.
So it's a challenge with lots of moving parts, and everyone needs to work together. But it's not just about fixing the current system, is it? It's about coming up with something better.
Absolutely. This is a chance to rethink the whole way finance works. We can use technology to build a system that's more inclusive, more transparent, and more resilient than anything we have now.
That sounds pretty ambitious. Are there any real-world examples of what this future system might look like?
Well, we've talked about blockchain. Imagine a world where every financial transaction is recorded on this decentralized, tamper-proof ledger. You could get rid of intermediaries like banks, which would lower fees and make things more efficient.
So instead of relying on one central authority, you'd have this distributed network that's much harder for hackers to mess with. It sounds almost too good to be true. Are there any actual examples of this happening?
We're already seeing the beginnings of this with cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. They still have some challenges, but they give us a glimpse of what decentralized finance could be.
It's amazing to think about how these technologies could change everything, but it also raises some concerns. If we move away from traditional banks and currencies, who's going to protect consumers? Who's going to make sure the whole system is stable?
Those are important questions, and there aren't any easy answers. We're in uncharted territory here, and we need to be careful but also optimistic. It's going to take a lot of thought and collaboration involving governments, tech people, and most importantly, the people who will be using these systems.
Because in the end, it's about giving people more control over their own money. This Barclays outage showed us that the system we have now isn't perfect. It can break down, it can be confusing, and it doesn't always help the people it's supposed to.
Exactly. So this is an opportunity to rethink what finance can be. We can build a system that's more accessible, more fair, and more resilient, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take ongoing conversation, experimentation, and a willingness to try new things.
This deep dive has been quite a journey. We've gone from the chaos of the Barclays outage to talking about the future of money itself. It seems like we're at a turning point in the financial world.
We are, and it's
Yeah.
up to all of us to shape this transformation in a way that benefits everyone. We need to be informed, engaged, and ready to challenge how things are done. The future of finance is being decided right now, and we all have a part to play.
That's a great way to put it. And on that note, we've come to the end of our deep dive. I hope this conversation has made you curious, inspired you to think differently about the future of money. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep working to shape the world you want to see.
Are you ready for this? Oh,
Like it like that. Hey yo, listen.
drop it low to the flow. Oh,
Like it like that.
yeah.